Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Trustcast Show. And we're happy to have with us here Ken Vick. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, today's guest walked into federal prison on February 12th, 2001, and that turned out to be the day that saved his life. He's been in recovery ever since and now runs one of the fastest growing treatment centers in Kansas and trains behavioral health leaders nationwide. Ken, when you walked out of prison and realized you wanted to spend the rest of your life helping people do what you just done, did anyone actually believe that you could?
Um, I mean, there were probably well, my mom, but she believes everything. Um, to be honest, I'm not really sure how many people believed it because, I was a statistic. I was a repeat offender, and some of the things that I did that I've done kind of went against the grain. But I believed it. And so that was the big part right there.
So you co-created the harm reduction specialist certification, which became the first Missouri-based credential to go international while running a 110-man residential program for homeless men in active addiction. What pivotal moment told you the field needed something it didn't have?
Um, so I co-created that with David, a friend of mine. And what I saw was we kind of got stuck in a little bit of the historical belief systems when it comes to substance use disorder and everything. Some of the old moral model, meaning just stop the beliefs of the past. And I also saw that a lot of people tend to grab things and they run too far, right? They'll take something like a harm reduction belief system and think that it means just go wild and all that. And I wanted to make sure that people understood what harm reduction really meant when it comes to a abstinence-based program. And I wanted to get it out there to where people could understand that this trauma-informed care, this unconditional positive regard was something that was priceless when it comes to meeting people where they are and actually helping them grow. And I just thought that maybe some guidelines and helping professionals kind of get out of their own way so we could be more assistance, give more assistance to the people we're serving was vital. It
What
just had to.
does harm reduction, what does a harm reduction program look like? What does it mean? What is that?
Well, a lot of people get confused and they think that, that means we allow people to use or any of those things. And that's not what it means. Harm reduction means along the lines with trauma informed care, meaning I'm going to make sure the things that I do no harm to the individuals that I'm serving. And sometimes if you come at somebody and it's just like, well, you have to stop immediately, that actually will build walls. And so, what I mean by harm reduction is if somebody comes and they're standing in front of me or they're coming into my office or my program for services, they're looking for a change in life. They're looking for ways to improve the quality of their life. And what I want to do is address where they think those changes can come from. That harm reduction approach means if they say, "Hey, I still want to use at some point," I'm still going to talk about, well, what would you like to do to improve the quality of your life? And through the right training and motivational interviewing and all the different things along those lines, eventually it gets to the point of, huh, I guess maybe I do need to actually stop using to actually improve the quality of my life. But harm reduction comes at it from a different point of view where it's just, I'm still going to meet you where you are. You can have your belief systems and everything, but when it comes right down to it, most people still have the same drive of, I want to smile more often and I'm tired of chaos.
So when somebody is participating in your program, there's no somebody who has to want to change in order to make this successful. You're not There's no forced kind of situation in what you do.
No, we definitely there's no forced anything. I will say that it's amazing how many times people come in and they don't really want to change, right? They want to get a probation officer off their back. They want to get a family member off their back, but they don't
Mhm.
see that much of an issue with the way they're living. That's where a truly good trained professional, a lot of motivational interviewing, helping identify what's driving the individual that is talking to you, makes a difference. And so the way I see it is people can come in with the belief of, I don't really want to stop using. I don't want to deal with my substance use disorder, but I want my probation officer off my back. Well, a good counselor knows how to utilize that and actually help the individual identify, hey, you know what? Maybe I should stop using, and that would actually help me get my PO off my back. I can't come straight out and say that because that'll help them build a wall. But if I help them come out and say it, so that's where motivational interviewing helps the individual you're working with identify what their motivation is and how they can maintain it and sustain it with time.
What is motivational interviewing? How does that work?
So motivational interviewing is a communication style. A lot of people think that maybe it's a counseling technique or something, and it's actually not. I think everybody in the United States or the world should learn it. It is a communication style to where, say, if I was working with you and I'm trying to identify what you are looking for in life, I'm going to ask open ended questions. I'm going to use some reflections to come back, and I'm going to help you identify what matters to you in your life and your future. And then those ideas are yours, they're not mine. And what it does is help somebody identify that actual internal drive that they have themselves. People don't change because you tell them to. Okay. I've had people tell me I needed to change back in the day. A few of them were judges. I didn't exactly listen until I told myself. And what motivational interviewing is just very simply, it's a communication style that helps people get in touch with their own personal inner truth and their own personal inner drive.
So give me an example of some of the questioning format that you would use for motivational interviewing. So what are you driving at to it sounds like you're trying to give them a way to have some self-discovery. What's the question format that you use to get there?
Um, a lot of it is first in motivational interviewing, I'm going to do less talking than the person I'm working with. Okay. That's where a lot of counselors and a lot of people that try to help others get in their own way is they talk more than the person that they're trying to help.
Mhm.
What I want to do is I want to ask an open-ended question, tell me what brought you here. And they'll say something. Well, my PO told me I had to be. Okay, well, tell me more about what that actually means and why your PO has the ability to do this and things along those lines. And what I want to do is ask questions that get them talking about the actual issue as they see it, not as I see it, as they see it. As they continue to answer questions and they talk more, I can use a reflection like it sounds like you're saying your PO is upsetting you a little bit. Can you tell me more about why this is happening? Different things along those lines. There's a whole lot to motivational interviewing, but basically what I want to do is get them talking, okay, about what they think is important. And then I can reflect a little bit in the middle of it with you know, short of saying anything else, like how's that working type of reflections, or even just letting them see it. Sometimes a simple reflection exactly of what somebody says
Mhm.
can really open the eyes. I don't know if you've ever had somebody tell you repeat what you said, and you're like, yeah, well, that's not really what I meant, type of a thing. And so what it does is help clarity as you ask questions and get them talking.
So someone's watching this right now whose family member just hit rock bottom. If they're, I don't know how you identify that, but is down on their luck. Let's so say, what's the single most, it's not luck, but it is suffering through this addictive situation. What's the single most important thing they need to do in the next 24 hours?
If from a family member's point of view, it's show love and kindness, but it's also help with resources. Um, we don't want to sit there and enable, but we also don't want to just, drop somebody on their head. The old version of tough love is actually does damage. And so what I would say is get resources and then try and hook it up to where, say, if I was doing it for, say, my son, and I'm calling a place, I'm going to call a place. We have this happen a lot here at Avalon where family members call rather than the person needing help. And what we try to do is we try to get the person that is actually needing the help, even when they don't think they want it, we want to try and get them on the phone and chat with them just briefly, so they can understand that they could be at a place where they're safe, they're heard, they feel comfortable. But the very first thing that a family member needs to do is reach out for that extra help, because a lot of times we look at the individual that's getting served as that's the person that needs to make changes and get help. But simple fact is it's substance use disorder is very holistic. It's the whole family, and even the person calling to help somebody else probably needs to talk to somebody as well a little bit once in a while.
So how do you do this all? So you say you don't want to enable. So I mean, it's in today's society, especially in the US, everybody either has a family member or a friend who is dealing with this exact thing in their family. I mean, it's so uh, prevalent. How do you give somebody support without enabling? Because I've seen both sides of that situation where you can just enable. But how do you do that? You say, too tough a love is destructive, but then enabling is also destructive. How do you balance that?
So everybody has their own set of boundaries, right? Things that you will or will not allow for yourself in your own life. If I had my son who was struggling or something and I needed to set some good, healthy boundaries, I'm going to let him know, hey, I love you. I'm going to support you every way I can. I also want you to know that these are the things that I expect that happen in my life. Okay. Don't come around me when you're using because that doesn't work for me. We can come to an agreement on this one. And you continuously set boundaries like that. I'm not going to hand you cash. Okay. I understand that you need help with this, this, and this. Let's talk about how you're going to get that done. But I'm not just going to give you a handout. Every single thing is going to be something that we work towards. And as you keep setting those boundaries, an individual starts to see, okay, this is what I will be able to get from, say, my dad. This is what he's going to give me. This is not what he's going to give me. And I'm going to basically give that person every chance to accept some of the help that is there. I'm going to give them resources because I'm always going to look for the resources first because, somebody in the middle of a substance use disorder, they're not looking for very many resources themselves. But I don't have to sit there and say, "Stop or I'm not gonna be around you." No, I still love you. I still wanna check in with you. I still wanna make sure that you're doing okay, but you can't expect me to hand you cash, and you can't expect me to say, "Sure, come on over whenever you're, intoxicated or high," because those things don't work for me, so let's see if we can get you help type of a thing.
So, you have a family who has a loved one. They got them into treatment, maybe multiple times, and nothing seemed to stick. Um, why should they try it again? Because I know people who have done this, and it's very frustrating. I don't know anybody who's given up, but what should they try? Why should they try it again?
Well, it's really kind of interesting. A lot of times people sit there and say, "Well, treatment is a 28-day program-ish, whatever." All science says that, that's not accurate. Those are numbers based on insurance, which means it's money. It's not actually psychology. The numbers actually show that for somebody to enter into a sustained recovery with some of the habits, they need normally on an average of 90 days in treatment. And what I mean is in residential treatment, and then there's the outpatient and everything that goes along with it. So when somebody stumbles again, when somebody struggles after they've gone through treatment, first off, you halfway expect it because we don't normally give enough because of the way finances are and different things. And so they don't have enough time to begin with. But also, this is a chronic reoccurring disease. It can resurface. If you think about it, it's a lot like depression or anxiety or any of those things. We don't stop trying to help somebody because they have a panic attack, 3 months after they start feeling good or whatever. Same thing if somebody has a return to use. I'm not going to sit there and attack them for it. It's like, okay, so you had 30 days of good that you were working on changing some of these things to improve the quality of life. You hit a bump, you struggled. Now you're ready to get back on the horse again, and let's start working on it. You sit there and you build off of the strength that they had in those first 30 or 60 or however many days, and you can actually help them identify where the struggle started to come in, because the struggle came long before they picked up a substance again. It came with the mental health and the different things along the lines there. Um, so returning to a treatment program is actually kind of a sign of strength and comfort.
So what's the difference between a detox and actual treatment?
So detox is just medical. That is simply your body has this substance in it. It's not functioning very well. It's blocking your ability to think as well. And there are simple dangers when people are detoxing off of substances. So it is about getting the physical body safe enough to actually take that next step, which would be the treatment, the residential treatment part. A lot of people don't know it. They talk about opioid withdrawal and all that stuff and how dangerous it is. And opioid withdrawal is very unpleasant, but it's not dangerous like the same way that alcohol use disorder and benzodiazepine use disorder. Those two are deadly if you don't do them in medical settings, depending on how much somebody drinks and whatnot. And so detox is strictly for the body, health of the body to make sure that you can continue functioning.
So, how does somebody know if a treatment center is a real deal versus just chasing insurance? Because I know there's a lot of treatment centers out there, and some of them are financially huge, what you'd call hugely successful. I don't know how their, what their results are like, but financially, they're making millions and millions of dollars at these treatment centers. It's very lucrative to have a treatment center. How do you know? And that doesn't mean that if a treatment center is making millions of dollars that they're not legit. But how do you know? How can you tell you're trying to get your family member into the right place? How do you determine which places are legit and which places aren't?
I would say first try and go do a tour at the facilities. Okay. I get it. Sometimes people are flying to different states and whatnot to go to treatment and everything. But if you can get a tour, and see what they're going to show you and everything. You can do a lot of research nowadays, online and everything. But to me, what you will see when you walk through a treatment program, you'll see like clients out in day rooms and different things. You'll see the staff that works at the program, and you'll get a feel for, are people happy? Are people not happy? Is everybody miserable? And you'll be able to identify some of that. It's like when people walk through Avalon, I give tours all the time. Somebody walks through Avalon about halfway through the tour, they're like, everybody seems happy here. I'm like, yeah, that's because we are a unified community trying to help each other. And that alone, that psychological safety is one of the first things somebody needs to decide they're going to make that change. And if you're trying to find a program for somebody, you can have all these great bells and whistles and all that stuff. But if you walk in there and the majority of the people are miserable or unhappy, you might want to think about, what kind of psychological safety is the person going to go through that program going to actually get?
So how does Avalon fund itself?
We are
Because that's a
insurance.
go ahead. Sorry.
We are insurance based. Um, we were blessed with local owners. So right here in Lawrence, Kansas, the majority of the owners live here. They value this community greatly, and we work with insurance. We've been open 1 year now, and so we're still struggling financially. It's going. We're getting better with a lot of things, becoming in network and whatnot. But we also work on a cash pay basis. But with all of that, we do it different than most programs because, you know, insurance is kind of interesting. There are a lot of insurances out there that got like, $7,000 to $10,000 deductibles and whatnot. And so a
Mhm.
lot of treatment programs are like, well, you got to bring that before you can come in.
Right.
And we don't do that. One of the highest stressors in life for an adult in the United States is finances. Well, the last thing you want to do is help somebody calm their nervous system, start to feel really good about life, and then when they leave, have this huge bill all of a sudden they got to start paying. So what we do is we actually pay attention to what somebody can afford. Okay. I don't want it to be over. I've written off thousands of dollars for a lot of people just for the simple fact of this is what works for their future. And the ownership here lets me do it. And so we work with deductibles and all of that. We're also in the process of being able to take Kansas Medicaid, um, so we can expand a little bit and actually help our community even more.
So what happens in the first 72 hours at a residential facility? What should a family member actually expect?
So if it's just residential and they're not in detox itself, the first 72 hours is a lot of just the orientation, getting comfortable. They get in their room, they'll kind of have a chance during intake. They should get a tour of the whole facility, meet their counselor, meet their case manager, meet the different peer specialists that work there, and have a really good understanding of how everything flows. Those first 72 hours are priceless because that's where you set that foundation of safety, that foundation that the individual that's in the program feels safe, because it's awkward to walk into a treatment program and end up, you know, having to talk to people about things, and it can be scary. And so the first 72 hours should be, famous last words, should be um, focused on safety, focused on that individual getting comfortable. I say safety a lot. I don't want people to think that I'm stock talking about physical safety. Yeah, that's super important and that has to be there. But I'm talking about mental safety to where they feel like, hey, maybe I can be myself here. And that's where that foundation starts within the first 72 hours.
So for someone who's tried to quit on their own like 10 times and failed, what's actually happening in their brain that makes it so difficult to, to succeed?
A lot of times people they won't address the people, places, and things. It's like they won't address actually the people that they're hanging around or the places that they go. It's like I remember back in the day, I decided I was going to stop, but I still went and hung out at the bar. It's like I can be tough. I don't need to drink. I can drink Coke, right? Okay, well that doesn't work. And so understanding that there's more to it than just stopping. A lot of people try to just stop and think that they should have the appropriate willpower. Simple fact is it's not willpower. Okay, there's a lot more to it, and it gets into the midbrain, and I could go off on the neural transmitters and all that stuff as to what really works. But a lot of people that they keep trying, they keep trying, they keep trying, and sometimes I think it's because we miss what we're actually looking for. They're trying to address the symptom. They're trying to take this one coping skill away, which is using a substance, without replacing it with something else healthier. The problem is more often than not, somebody that has a substance use disorder, there's something that happened before that. There's going to be some form of trauma. There's going to be depression. There's going to be different things along those lines. And if all I address is, say, the alcohol use, then I'm missing what actually instigated it. And I'm always going to struggle because I haven't actually addressed why I needed the coping skill to begin with.
So you've been in recovery for 21 years. What did you believe about yourself when you walked into prison that many years ago that turned out to be completely wrong?
Um, well, the one thing I don't know about what I believed in myself. I What was completely wrong is that I blame the system and everything else rather than take acceptance myself. But what was wrong about me? Um, I had kind of a poor self-image. Um, I I could function easier and talk to people easier and be the life of the party and be the all these things when I was high. And that was wrong. I could be a valued member of this world when I'm not high. And that's some few things that I missed.
So, what would you say to somebody who thinks that they don't deserve treatment because of the things that they've done?
Um, First, everybody does. Everybody is a human being, and they deserve the chance to take good steps forward and everything. Um, almost everybody with substance use disorder has a few different things that we've done in our past that kick us in the gut, that kind of just like, oh, and it messes with our self-image and everything else. I wish I could have been a better father. Those things will still always bother me. But all of those things shape the person that you're becoming. And so you can sit there and think, well, I'm just such a horrible person. I don't deserve this. That purpose of what you went through and what you lived through can be that one thing that might spark the next person. It might be that motivation for somebody else. And every human in the world, this is that unconditional positive regard, um, from Carl Rogers' Rogerian theory, that is everybody is a human. They deserve to be treated like a human because they are human. And even if you feel like you've done a lot of really bad things, so have a lot of people. It's about what you do today and tomorrow, not what you did yesterday when it comes right down to it. And look in the mirror and see a valuable, intelligent person.
So when somebody says that medication assisted treatment is just trading one drug for another, what do you say to that?
When I say get educated, um, because there's a lot more to it. We don't sit there and think that somebody that has type 2 diabetes is just trading one thing for another, trading their sugar for their insulin. We think that that's a medication that's actually serving them and helping them, so they can move forward in life. Very simply, a medical condition is a medical condition, and there are times that medications work for it. Um, and there are times that medications like Suboxone or Methadone or naltrexone or any of those things, um, help people take that step forward. Whether it's something they may or may not need the rest of their life is one thing. The last study I read, I think the average person that gets on a behavioral health med, and that includes stuff for anxiety, depression, different things along those lines, normally are only on them for about 12 months because a lot of them are situational. Somebody going through a divorce, and so they need an extra, medication for depression or anything. It's the same thing with medications for substance use disorder. Once you get to that point to where you can take that next step forward, you may or may not need to continue taking it. But I do know that I know somebody who's been using methadone for almost 30 years, and they are an extremely successful business individual that you would never know they're taking a med. Plus, the meds that you take, that's between you and your doctor. It ain't nobody else's business,
Hmm.
you know?
So about half of your 35-person staff has personal experience with addiction. How does that change what happens in the room with the client?
Right off the bat, when you have somebody with lived experience, it feels like it opens the door, right? It's like, oh, you kind of understand this. Okay. If you walk into some place and you're asking for help and you feel like nobody has any lived experience of what you've lived through, it's harder to feel like, well, I can talk to you about this. When somebody walks into Avalon and they meet all of the all of us that have lived experience and everything, they're like, okay, you understand, I can talk to you. And it's just an opening of the door so communication can start. It works easier. People without lived experience can absolutely make a huge difference. There are great counselors that don't have lived experience. But sometimes it's just how quick you get that door open so somebody will listen to you or feel like they are being heard because maybe you understand it. That's what that lived experience does.
So Avalon recently earned Joint Commission Gold Seal Accreditation. What does that actually unlock for clients trying to use insurance?
So a lot of insurance companies won't allow you to be in network if you are not certified through the Joint Commission or CARF. We chose the Joint Commission because I think it's a little bit higher standards. What it means is we have the Joint Commission, which is a governing body that comes in and does a survey of every single thing we do and a few things that we didn't know we were doing. To make sure that absolutely everything that we do for the clients that we serve is evidence-based, that we are following really healthy policies to make sure that there is safety, that that what we do is actually, you know, proven to be effective and proven to keep the people that walk in the door safe. And so somebody with Joint Commission certification basically says that, hey, you've gone through a 3-day audit, which is what we did, of every single thing that we do in the building, from hiring people to the vehicle that we drive to the programming that we offer to every single thing connected to the building. Somebody can walk in and know that that's been inspected and that it's up to par because it's a continuous inspection. So you always have to renew.
So, you wrote that behavioral health can be one of the most toxic work environments in existence. What makes a field dedicated to healing so hard on the people who are working to do the healing?
Some of it is there's not the pay that a lot of people think. A lot of people think, "Oh, you're making millions." Okay. Most people that get into this field, they do it because of the size of their heart. And then you find out that the systems can make it kind of difficult at times. Some of the belief systems outside of treatment can feel like, well, why don't you just stop? Things along those lines. And people start to get burned out. They start to struggle with their own mental health. And next thing you know, they stop helping as much because it becomes a job instead of a mission. There are other aspects of it too. If you start looking at community mental health, meaning like the agencies that in Kansas, it's KDADS, in Missouri, it's Department of Mental Health, the one state agencies that control uh, standard treatment programs, they have expectations. You have quotas, different things you have to do to get paid and do these different things. And a lot of the times, the people that are supervising the people that are actually doing the work have been promoted because of their degrees rather than their experience. And that can actually cause a lot of issues because they're looking at numbers rather than people. And there's not a lot of really well trained leadership that knows how to look at both. My degree in organizational leadership is one of the things that helped me identify ways to look at both. So I can meet productivity, I can help my team meet productivity with still being client centered and not burning my team out. Have a huge focus on self care and things like that. And unfortunately, a lot of programs, they're just looking at the numbers. You have to do this, you have to do that. And very simply, in this field, we have limited resources. You want to help somebody and they go through your program and they do really well, but then they go back to the same place that they started from, they're probably going to struggle. So trying to find housing, trying to help people get IDs, trying to help people find the right medical needs that they have for their basic health. That can be really frustrating when the system itself feels like it doesn't care about the people we're serving as much as we care. And sometimes the system itself is not as encompassing as we'd like to think.
So, if you could change one thing about how the behavioral health system is funded or structured, what would that be?
Outcomes. I would totally change the way we look at outcomes. Um, a lot of funding and a lot of everything is connected to abstinence based. It's like you quit using. Okay. Yes, super important. Yes, needs to be a part of it. But I think we need to look more at the outcome of quality of life. Okay, there's not even enough assessments that assess how somebody that has gone through my program, how their quality of life got better. Sometimes we're like, yeah, you know what? They got a job. They're seeing their kids every single weekend. They've got their own place, but they still use once in a while, so they're not as successful. And that actually changes funding and a few different things. And the simple fact is the fact that they're working a full-time job, they're being a parent again, they've got their own place, that's success. And we ought to look at that as an outcome for quality of life more often than the substance use disorder with abstinence
So,
alone.
if where can people find you, learn more about Avalon, or reach out if they need help for themselves or their family or their organization, even?
You can visit our website at avalonwrc.com or call us 785-340-0300. We don't have a call center. When you call that number, you talk to somebody that's here in my building working. And whether it's part of our intake department, if they're busy, our nurses answer the phone, or our techs, or our counselors. No matter what, if you call that number, you're talking to somebody in the building.
Ken, thanks for coming on the show. Hang with me for just a minute.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.